In this video, we are going to do processing of text files using pseudocode. And this is the complete set of instructions that are available to us to process a text file in pseudocode. The open file instruction is used to open a file, and a file can be opened in a read mode or the write mode or the append mode. So when we open a file, we also specify the mode in which we are going to be working with this file. The read file instruction allows us to read a line of text from the file. When we want to write a line of text into the file, we are going to be using the write file instruction. The close file instruction will close an already open file. And finally, we are going to make use of a function which is the end of file function, EOF, denoted by EOF. We're going to use this function to test whether we've reached the end of the file. Let's take a look at this small program and see what we've done here. Well, what we've done here is I have declared a string variable str1, and then in the next line I have used the open file instruction to open a file in write mode. What this is going to do is it's going to create a new file called my file. It's going to create a new file called my file. Obviously the extension is going to be txt, so this is my file, right? And following that, in the next instruction, we're taking input from the user. So the user is going to provide a value. Let's say the user provides this value to this variable, right? So once we've taken the input from the user, in the next line, we are calling the write file instruction. And this instruction, what it does is it enters a line into our text file specified here, right? So my file.txt will now we are now going to be writing into this file, and the value that's going to be written is specified right here. So the value that's going to be written is basically the value that is held by the string variable str1. So when this instruction executes, we're going to have something like this written in our file, right? And finally the close file instruction. What the close file instruction is going to do is it's going to close this file. So this small program, in this small program, what we need to understand is that we must open the file first, and then we can do our processing, and finally we must close the file. So this sequence is very important. First we need to open a file that we want to work with, then we are going to do whatever we want to do with that file, and finally we have to close that file. Okay, now let's take a look at another program. Now this program is similar to the one that we just did, right? The only difference here is that instead of using a variable in the write file instruction, instead of using a variable, I am directly using a string value, and this is a string value we know because of the quotes that we have put here. So we are directly passing a string value in this case. So what's going to happen? Open file in write mode is going to create a new file, right? And the name of that file is going to be my file.txt. Now we have two write file instructions within our program. So basically in the first instruction, the first time write file executes, when this one executes, this line is going to be written into our text file, good day. And then when this instruction executes, good night is going to be the second line that's going to be added to our text file. Okay, and finally we are going to close our file. Let's take a look at another program in this program we have opened our file in the append mode, which basically means that this file, it is possible that this file, myfile.txt, already exists, right? So this file already exists, and as we can see within this file we have 2 lines of text. So now once we've opened this file in append mode, and when we execute this instruction, what it's going to do is it's going to add a new line. So it's not going to overwrite the data that already exists in the file, but it's going to add the new line. So this string value great is going to be written in the next line in our file, and when this instruction executes, this second write file instruction executes, best is going to be added to a new line in our file, and finally we're going to close the file. So the key concept here is that in the append mode we are not going to overwrite the existing file. Rather, when we write something to a file in append mode, those new values are added into new lines, right, in our file, in our text file. Let's take a look at another program. In this program, it's the same program as the one that we did just before this, but the only difference is that I am using these variables, right? So in my write file instruction I am using these string variables str2 and str1, and effectively when this instruction executes we're going to have Sunday added to the end of the file, and when this one executes we'll have Monday added to the end of the file. So once again, the key thing to note here is that in the append mode data is added to the end of the file, and the already existing data is not overwritten. Let's take a look at another program. In this program we are opening our file in the read mode. So basically there is a file that already exists and we are trying to read from that file. In our example, the name of that file is file1. So this is the file that we are trying to read, and to read this file to read from this file we are using the read file instruction. So once this instruction gets executed, this instruction is going to read a single line from our file, and this value great in this case is going to be assigned to our string variable str2. In the next step we are going to output the value of str2. So if this was our output window, we would see great written in our output window, and finally the file is going to get closed. But in this case there's a problem. This read file instruction only got executed once, so we were only able to read just one line. From the file. We output that line in our output window, and finally the file was closed. So this is not enough. What we want to do is that we want to read all of these lines. From our text file. So how do we do that? So this is what we've done. In this code we've added a loop, right? And this loop is using the end of the file function, right, which is going to tell us when we've reached the end of the file. So this loop keeps running as long as we've not reached the end of the file, right? So while not the end of the file, this loop keeps running. Once we reach the end of the file, this loop is going to stop running. And what we are doing is, inside this loop, we are executing the read file instruction. So the first time the loop runs, the read file instruction is executed, and this line from within our file is read, and this value is assigned to the str2 variable. And then if I can draw the output window here, in the output window the value of str2 is displayed, which in this case is going to be great, right? So the second time the loop runs, because we've still not reached the end of the file, the second time the read file instruction executes, we are going to be reading this line, and this value is now going to be assigned to the str2 variable, right? And then when this instruction gets executed, the output window is going to be updated, and we're going to see the next line shown in the output window. Then when this loop runs the third time, this line is going to be read from within our file, and this value is going to be assigned to str2, and then we're going to display this in the output window. So Sunday is going to show up in the output window. Now when this loop runs the fourth time, and the read file instruction is executed, this line is read from the file, and this is now assigned to the str2 variable. Once again, the str2 variable is output, so our output window is updated. So Monday is going to show up in the output window, and finally this loop is going to stop running because we've reached the end of the file. At this point, once we've read this line, our end of the file function will tell us that we've reached the end of the file. So this loop is going to stop running, and finally we have closed our file. So with the help of this loop, we were able to read all the lines within our text file.